Let's go. What's up,
Lego.
everybody? It's wait a minute, I jacked that up. Hold on, what's my intro? What's up, everybody, and welcome once again to the UnLearnT podcast. Yeah, that's right. I'm your host, Ruth Abigail, aka RA.
What's up, friends? It's your girl, Jaquita.
Yo, and this is indeed the podcast that is helping you to gain the courage to change your mind so that you, yes, you, can
Yes, you.
experience just a little
Hallelujah.
bit
Yes,
more
Lord.
freedom.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Won't he
all right,
do
all
it?
right, all right, all right. So we're in a series. We're talking about unlearning personality, and we're using different assessments to talk about this particular topic. So far,
Well, dang, Ruth,
uh,
no check-in?
I'm jumping in. You know what I'm saying? I feel like
Okay.
I
All
was
right. If the water is stirring, you know what I'm saying? If the water
I
is
mean, we was gonna
stirring.
get there. You know what I'm saying? We was gonna get to the check in, but I was just trying to recap. You
Set
know
them
what I'm
up.
saying?
Go
I
ahead
was
and
just
set
trying to
them up.
recap. So we unlearn about personalities and so this week we'll talk about a particular assessment that a lot of you may have taken, maybe have not. But before we get there, how are you, Jaquita?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for
Mm-hmm.
asking.
Mm-hmm.
It's been, a good week, but definitely, these personality conversations have been coming in handy because starting a new job
Oh
and
yeah,
being at this middle adult age, let me tell y'all
yeah.
something. Starting a new job at 37, almost 38 is way different than when I was in my 20s.
That's fair.
First
That's
of
fair.
all that excitement
Yeah,
and
yeah.
rah, 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 it's like, hey, what do
Leave
I need to
that
do?
at home.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. Hello, friends, people that I work with. I don't need no family.
Nope.
Let me get
No, that's right.
in. Let me get in and get a job done and
Yep.
get home.
What to say? We
Okay,
a team, not a family. We ain't gotta do all that. Let's go.
listen,
We a team. Let's
listen,
move. Let's move.
listen. But you know what? My new workplace is so much quieter than my last one anyway. Like everybody, and I went from working in a space where there was a lot of young adults and three middle adults. And now it's
Mm-hmm.
a few middle adults and grown folk.
Grown.
Like they grown. Like some of them like, hey, I'm about to retire in a few years. I started meeting with all of the directors because I'm a director in this space. So I was meeting with all the other directors, and it was like, yeah, close to retirement, thinking maybe, and I'm like, I have arrived. These conversations have changed.
Sure.
And so knowing my personality and where I sit on
Sure.
all these assessments has been really helpful because I can tell you exactly who I am. Well, listen, we ain't got to do that. Well, it ain't gonna take 2 years to learn me. Here it is. Here I go.
I know that's right. Like for real.
Yeah.
Hey.
So,
All right. I'm gonna
how have
pick.
you been, Ruth?
I've been good. You know what I'm saying? I've been good. I I have my tea on this particular
Come on here.
recording. So
We
if
got a little
y'all
tea.
on one of the recordings I didn't have my tea, and you got to listen to it to know why, but now I do, and I feel better immediately. I think I've taken 4 sips. That's not good. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not good. I should be able to just be who I need to be with a drink of water and some good rest, but not so. Not
Let
so.
me tell you something. I told the people I'm about to be a coffee drinker. Like I said, yeah, I'm about to start a coffee habit. Like I'm about to start a habit
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
listen,
Look.
listen, it's getting harder and harder to,
Yeah.
live without the things. And somebody was like asking me, they was like, so wait, you have no caffeine habits? No. I
No,
don't have to have
but
soda, no
that's good,
tea, no.
Quita. Keep it. I
No, it's
encourage you
not.
to keep it that
No,
way. You know what I mean? I think it's a
because I
good
be
thing.
tired the first 2 hours of every day. Like,
That's a good thing. That's a good thing, man. Um,
water ain't enough. Probably just need more
sadly,
electrolytes.
that's probably what it is, honestly. So, Quita, what assessment are we talking about today?
Listen, we talking about the assessment that put the workplaces on fire, okay? Immediately, it had us all looking at each other like, oh, so that's why you the way you is. That's why you get on my nerves, all right? Everybody, we're talking about the DiSC assessment.
Yeah, we
All
are.
right. Y'all, some of you may remember taking it, all right? Listen, it I know for me, I was working at Girl Scouts when I took it, and we were
Mm,
all side eyeing each other like,
that's
that makes
hilarious.
sense.
Man, look, that's funny.
Set
That
the workplace on fire.
it does. I think that so we if you haven't watched it yet, check out our our talk about strength finders, which is also used a lot in the workplace, but it's a very different test. That strength
Very
finders
different.
is really about you kind of you being
It's really about like
intentional.
gifts and skill
Yeah,
sets.
gifts and skill sets. This test
Hmm.
is about behaviors.
Hmm.
And
And temperament.
and it's very the context of this is communal, right? And it's not like it's not that these others aren't, but this is where, like, when it comes to your personality, and particularly your personality when it comes to a lot of times in the work environment, it is a communal assessment. So you understanding you is also you understanding how you behave around other different types. And it's what makes it, as Jaquita said, on fire. It's what makes it set on fire because you start to realize, like, oh man, like, anyway, we'll get into it. It's crazy. So if you haven't heard of it, DiSC, it stands for four different words: dominant, influencing, steady, and conscientious. Okay. Dominant, influencing, steady, and conscientious. DiSC. So when you take it, you will be rated with those four different words. And you'll kind of be rated like from a scale of high style to low style, right? And it kind of it rates you in between. So we're going to tell you what we are. And once again, let's not spoiler alert, we are the exact opposite.
Of course, in everything.
In
In
everything.
everything.
It is actually kind of wild. So I am a high D, meaning when I am actually, yeah, I'm a very high D. I'm not just high, I'm a very on the scale. It goes from high, very high to high style. I'm a very high D. So I am like in the red on my D. That means that I have my that D stands for dominant, okay? And we'll go over what that means. I'll tell you, when I first took it, I did not appreciate it. I was like, who dominant who? Like, that I feel attacked. Like, and
Mm,
I didn't appreciate it. So I'm a high D and I'm also a high C,
my
conscientious.
lord.
All right. So Quita, what are you?
Listen, I'm a high I, okay? We are enthusiastic, we are energy driven because we are trying to influence atmospheres and influence kind of like the mood of a room and like
Mm.
the mood of the people. Like we want to inspire, we want to motivate, we want to pump people up. And so that's very much where I sit most of the time.
And what do you know what your second one is?
My second one is S, which is kind of the one that is really focused on like building structures, making plans, right? We're steady, all right? Slow and steady, all right? We like to kind of, build and think through and ideate and like, but we're not quick to move, but we're
Right.
really good at building kind of the underpinning of a thing.
That's really good. That's really good. So as a D, I am so what it how it describes a D is work towards achieving goals and results. Absolutely. They function best in active and challenging environments. 100%. That describes me very well. When I read it, I was like, all right, fine. I have to take that. Um,
Fine, I'll be this.
and then conscientious is it says work towards doing things right and focused on detail, and they function best in structured and orderly environments. And so I definitely have both of those. I at first I identified more with the conscientious than the dominant because in my mind, dominant, I'm gonna be totally honest with y'all. And let me preface this by saying my mom is one of my biggest role models. I love her so much. But growing up, I just was like, I don't. My mom is my mom. I'm a high D. My mom is the highest D. She's
Hmm.
way higher than I am on that scale, and I don't know that she has another letter. Pretty sure that's the only letter she's got. So I growing up, it was like my mom was she was very dominant. It was very much like, all the things about a D she was at the top of. And I was like, yo, like, I don't want to be like that. Like, especially as a kid, you always get in trouble, or you're getting criticized for something, or you need to do this better. We need to do this, so
Mm,
be here on time or whatever. And it was just like, no, I don't want to do that. But you are who you come from. Amen. It's just what it is.
it shows up in you.
It's just what it is. And so I've realized, but I also realized that, like, a lot of why she was that way is because she she cares so much about us being well. And it's like, that this is what it's going to take for you to be well, for the house to be well, for everybody around us to be well. Even if you don't like it, I'm okay with that. I'm doing this for your best good. And I began to realize that. So, like, but so when I read this, I associate that particular trait with my mother, and I rejected it immediately.
Man, I am not my mom. This is not me. It can't be.
And then I read it and I was like, oh man, I definitely am. My dad is also a high D. They're both very, so I it comes honest. It's like I can't. It's just like I can't help it. Would you say? Do you know? Can you see where yours comes from? Like your I comes
Um,
from?
I would say I think my mom is a D. I think my mom has more of that dominance
Yeah.
characteristic, but I think that she also has like some of the S.
Mm,
Like I think that she is steady, structured, and S's I think tend to be a little bit more mild tempered. And I think can like exude kindness and care
for sure.
in that way. And
Yes.
so I definitely think I see some of that. I don't know about my dad. My dad is so reserved. Sometimes it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not dominance. I can see my dad having maybe like he probably has some eye.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think he does it very intellectually,
Huh.
which
Interesting.
is me too,
Mm-hmm.
but I have way more energy than my dad. Like
Sure.
I'm a pump up a crowd. My dad is
Yeah.
like, I said what I said, go be inspired. I said it 3 minutes ago. I have nothing else. So like I definitely think that there are, but what I have learned, and which may be the first thing that I've unlearned, is kind of like moving from those 20s to those 30s. Like when I started moving into leadership roles, I
Mm-hmm.
found myself operating more in a dominant characteristic than previous because I had to take charge.
Yeah.
And when I get into, especially like when I walk up to an event and things are not right, immediately I'm like, change this, change that, do this, do that. Like it is no longer. And I was telling somebody because I was training students how to like be really engaging like hosts and like like leads of events and things. And I was telling them that I went to this one event and we thought it was going to be 200 people and there were 400. And it was like goat yoga. So we got the goats, people grabbing goats, carrying goats all over the place. It's
Hilarious.
400 people. They're there an hour and a half early, like standing in line, waiting to do goat yoga. And
Sure.
I was just like, I went into full like dominant mode. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was in the mic. I was like, excuse me, if you holding a goat, I need you back in the fence. Like I was not playing. And then I had to go back and like bring out my eye self. And like so after I like gave all these rules and stuff, I came back and I was like, who's ready to have some fun? Huh? Who's ready for a good time? Right? Yeah. Thank y'all. But it's like in event mode, I switch.
Yeah.
And like we say that in the office that I was in previously, like there is like you have like your regular person and then you have event Jaquita. So you have Jaquita, like you have office Jaquita, then you have event Jaquita. And you have to get to know event Jaquita because she different. She different.
So I'm so glad you did that, because you make a very this is brings us into a very important understanding about this. So when you take this test, you actually, depending on the level of test you take, right? I happen to take it in a leadership development course, and so they really broke down I mean, I have a 46-page document, right? um the two things that it measured were your natural style and your adaptive style. And what Quita was talking about was the difference between her natural style and adaptive style. So you'll see that you naturally naturally you adapt, right? Especially again, and I always want to draw this back because again, those of you that are listening to this podcast, if you are an unlearner, okay, then you are interested in growing and maturing and getting better and moving to the next level. Your mindset, like you want a mindset shift in order to gain the freedom in the season that you're in. That's going to take some unlearning, which means you're growing, right? And so naturally, that type of person is going to learn and wants to learn how to adapt into their situation and adapt into
Mm-hmm.
what it is that they're doing. So you are probably adapting a lot in this season of your life, which is going to be different than who you would be if you were in just in your natural kind of laid back state where you didn't have any real expectations of you. There was nothing that you were tasked to do. There's you don't have a real in, a real high level leadership role, or whatever that might be. If you're in that area at Thanksgiving, right, you
Mm-hmm.
may not be the person who's getting the food together, versus at your job you may have a leadership role. But at Thanksgiving, I say in my situation, my aunt is the leader. She does that. I chill. I walk in the house, I sit back, I eat food. I don't have any decisions I gotta make. I don't have any orders I have to give. I don't have to check in with nobody. I could just be me. So a lot of how I am in the workplace is totally different in a situation where somebody else is in charge. But when I'm in charge, I look different, right? Like Quita was saying, when she's in charge, she
Mm-hmm.
looks different
Yeah.
versus when she's not in charge, she looks different. So your style is either you adapt to your adaptive style or your natural style. So I happen to have mine in front of me. I'll give you an example of like the D and the C, which are my top ones, don't change really much. Like they're still at the top. But for the I, Quita's highest is my lowest. So for me, the I is very low in my natural style. I am not that idea of creating, social synergy and I'm, life of the enthusiasm high, that ain't me. Right? That's not who I am. But in a my adaptive style, because of the role I have of leading an organization, I got to have a little bit of that. It's
Mm-hmm.
still not high, but it's higher than I would be just as plain old with Abigail at her house, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and same for the S. The S is lower. I am perfectly fine with going with the flow most days. I don't have to have a plan. Like we can just move. But when as a leader, that's not the case. Like I have to have a plan, right? I gotta have a structure. I have to be able to communicate that structure. Again, it's much higher than just in my lowest, in my regular state. So is Quita, what I think what you described is exactly what that was. Like, event
Mm-hmm.
Jaquita versus office Jaquita versus at
Yeah.
home Jaquita, right? Like
Listen,
totally
at
different.
home Jaquita is so chill. You know, I think there's something about like the social setting that just like turns things on.
Yeah.
Like, and like I think that like it's kind of like as you enter into different environments, like it is like hitting buttons on the inside of
Hmm.
you. Because when I get to work, it is immediately like I was, especially in my last position where there were so many young adults, young leaders. Um, I was constantly like in encouraging mode and hyping them up and helping them to sit down, think through the problems, come up with strategies, But at home, Jaquita is like we chilling, like, and I have spent all my energy, and I don't feel the need to do those things. There's also nobody at home.
Right.
Ain't nobody here. Okay, so there's nobody to turn anything on for. So, but I would say like with my friends, like I don't feel the need to inspire y'all. Like I'm not like
We
I'm sorry.
appreciate it sometimes.
First of
We
all,
need inspiration.
Y'all be all right. But I don't feel like it's not something that always just turns on. Like
Yeah.
I'm more so thinking through life with you, you know, and pondering, and I think I pull more on my S side.
Yeah.
Like I think that that's more of like my S, like let's think through, let's engage, you know, thoughts and you know, figure out the structure of
Yeah.
things versus when I am in a place where performance is expected, I immediately turn into that I. And when I'm in a space where there is a larger thing at stake, I can
Hmm.
be a little controlling.
Huh.
But up
Interesting.
until then, I think anybody who has ever worked for me will tell you that, like, yo, she really let me have it. Like my ideas, the things that I wanted to do, like she let me do it. Like I was never like pushing pushy when it came to them making their plans.
Yeah.
Amir, what do you want to do? Tiana, what you want to do? You know, Darby, what you doing? You know, like, and they would just sit down and like detail out to me what they want to do, and I was kind of not critiquing it, but helping them to like give shape to their ideas. It wasn't until I got to the thing that I was like, all right, all the things haven't been,
Sure. Sure.
and it wasn't even that they hadn't thought of things. It's just my mind. I think in the fight or flight mode, I think I have more fight than I previously realized.
Hmm.
Like when things happen, I'm like, yo, what we doing?
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
rarely run unless it's an animal, but otherwise, y'all, there was a frog in my garage.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It was like this
No,
big. It wasn't even, it
it
was,
doesn't
it
matter.
was
It doesn't
nothing.
matter. I have not parked in my garage
Oh,
in months, okay? Because the idea of getting out of my car and that frog being near my feet stressed me out, okay? My car in the driveway right now, okay? Because
that's
I can't do
wild,
it.
Jaquita.
I cannot do it.
Yeah, this frog is
Animals just
nothing. It's
freak
nothing.
me out.
It's
I
all
haven't
you to
been in my
step on.
backyard in years just because there's a creek that runs back. I don't know what's out there.
Well, that I get.
So I let the yard man deal with that.
That I get.
Mm-mm,
But the
don't
frog,
even tell me.
come on, man.
No, that frog stressed me out. And my neighbor and her 3 year old were walking around my garage trying to get it. And I was just standing back there like, y'all got it? I can't do it. I
A
cannot do it.
3-year-old?
Yeah. She was like, come on, you've held a frog before. And the little 3 year old was running around. And I was like,
Wow.
I'm so grateful.
Wow.
But
That's that's so
nevertheless, like
bad.
I have learned that like my fight or flight mode is fight. And I think that like when I get in those situations and there's a lot going on, or there's like a critical emergency or something is happening. I had a student, we were at an event, and this student was about to pass out. And immediately I went into
Mhm.
let's take care of it mode.
Mhm.
Like, and it was so funny because I walked on her and I was trying to get her to a chair and she just fell on me like in my arms, and she was like, I'm so tired. And I was like, Mama here, baby. Mama here.
You you're really making me, so this is interesting because, and I'm scrolling through because I want to make sure there's a particular I think that's it. Let me see here. One second, guys. Let me find in my notes
Do,
what I'm looking
do,
for. Yeah, here we
do,
go.
do,
Okay,
do,
so
do, do.
so the I, and this is interesting, and I'm kind of putting this together. So if you're an I,
Mhm.
or if you, and you have to take this as, but if you're like, hey, I typically I's and S's typically are more people oriented versus D's and C's are more task oriented typically.
Mhm.
And so in that moment, right, what you just described, it's really interesting because it's like as an I, yeah, like let me ask you this. Do you think you would have been as intense if it wasn't a human problem?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. When things happen and they're like, we need this paperwork immediately,
Yeah.
I'm like, whatever, like, absolutely not. I could care less.
Yes.
I
Yes.
could care less.
So I'm
No.
I'm I'm remembering a time. So like my partner in crime in Angel Street, one of my partners in crime, her name is Jill.
Hey, Jill.
She's also an I, and
Me and Jill
it's
just.
y'all are very similar. So
Mm.
we were this was years ago. Gosh, this is over 10 years ago. Um, we were in Germany for a conference, and we were on our way, we were at the airport getting back home, and there was an issue with the security and the plane and all this. Anyway, we were very, very close to missing our flight, and we had it wasn't an option. Like, we're traveling internationally, we have to get back home.
Mm-hmm.
Missing your flight just isn't as simple as if you're in the States, right?
Yeah.
So Jill, there was a point where she just literally bowled her way through the crowd and said, "Okay, guys, we're getting through." And she said, "Follow me." And she went, and we went right behind her. And it was very uncomfortable for me because I don't. That's not. I would prefer to think of every other type of way than to like bother people, right? I don't want to do that. But and I don't think she does either. But what was concerning to her was, I got to get y'all home. I got to get y'all
Mm-hmm.
home. This was a trip I asked you to be on. I got to get y'all home.
Oh
And
yeah.
so
Whoop.
every sense in her was about us. And the problem, since the problem concerned her people, she was like, and it ain't even a thing.
Listen, I'm not an aggressive person, but mess with somebody that's up under me. I'm quick. I saw this video on Instagram where it talked about like being a millennial boss, and like the lady was on there and she was like, "Oh, they said what? Okay, copy me in the next email and say bringing Jaquita in for visibility, and I'll take it from there." That's very much me. Like
Uh-huh.
something similar happened, and I was like, "Yo, add me on to that next meeting." You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? And we gonna handle this. We gonna squash this. All right. I was quick to make a meeting. Like, hey guys, want to just meet so we can all get on the same page. And I'm coming in like, so what the problem is? Okay, we gonna fix things. When you
Yeah.
come against and I think it's also because I think like as a millennial or as a middle adult, like we got pushed over, like we got talked about bad. Y'all came for the millennials.
For sure.
Y'all came for us. Okay, y'all try to act like we was lazy, like we ain't want to do no work, like we was complaining all the time. Now look at y'all.
Ah!
Hmm.
So,
Now y'all need us. Now we the middle adults running the world.
y'all don't
Okay.
know what to do with these 21-year-old.
Yeah, they Generation Alpha gonna stress y'all out.
Yeah, man.
Okay, they already don't know what to do with Gen Z. They like, yeah, yeah. Put some respect on our names. Okay. Also, most of us are close to 40, if not 40 already.
Yeah.
But
I'm
nevertheless,
getting
all
there
right,
though.
we not the young ones no more. Y'all talking about them Gen Zers now. All right, we do the side part, they do the middle. It's real easy to tell us apart. They wear long socks, we wear short ones. Them long socks be stressing me out. Like, do you know how hard we fought to have the no
Now
show
that's
ankle
facts, because
socks?
I don't understand. I still don't understand that. Like, I don't
I don't
understand that.
get it.
I
I
don't
don't
get it.
get it. But nevertheless, like I have learned as I've grown older, like the dominance comes out more in me. And I will
Hmm.
tell you, it is quite stressful because I had a lot of issues with people with the D personality. Like,
Let's talk about
I
that. I was just about to say, let's talk about what bothers us sometimes about certain
you know,
personalities.
and this is why I said that like the disc assessment tore these workplaces up. Okay, because I would just like to say, as soon as I learned the disc assessment, I knew I had beef with the C's. Like
Hilarious.
I, I knew because they stress. They're always like, but what about the details? What about the facts? What about compliance? Everybody has to comply.
Oh
Procedure, procedure,
man.
procedure. And I'm like, ain't nobody got time. They're always the ones, everybody's like, all right, guys, we're all going to get it done. Yeah. And the C person's like, well, I just really don't think that we thought about policy E, section 2. And I'm just like,
Yeah, man. It's true. It's true.
please, don't nobody care. Again, I'm people oriented. So all of that, policy, policy, policy. I'm like, it's going, I might have to change the policy up depending on what I'm doing anyway. Like, I don't be really thinking that, one policy gonna do everything I need it to do anyway. So,
Right.
like I quickly had to like be mindful of, all right, don't come too hard on the C's, and I think being around, it's interesting that you're a D because I don't know that I would have guessed that. But y'all, Ruth Abigail, I learn more about Ruth Abigail every year. Like it's like another like like when
Me
Shrek
too.
said he was an onion.
Yeah.
Ruth Abigail has been an onion. She just keeps becoming more and more herself, which is beautiful. But it's 20 years of friendship, and she was not a D in college. Well, no, she kind of was. You kind of was when
Yeah, I wasn't
when
a confident D.
you weren't a confident D, but
Yeah.
I remember one. We led the gospel choir together. Ruth Abigail was president. I was vice president. And one rehearsal, she wasn't going to be there, and she left me like a list of instructions of what I needed to do
Yeah.
so that I would do it the way that she would do it. And I was like, absolutely not. Like she even left me a word, y'all, because we would give like a little inspirational word at the beginning. Me, a whole religion major, she did not trust me
I didn't.
to write my own words. She was like, here's the word I wanted to give. I really need you to give it just as it's written on this paper. And I was like,
And she
what?
and she didn't do it, by the way. Like
And no, I tried to, and that's when everybody was looking at me side eye because you had a reason you want. Nevertheless, you know, I think what's interesting to me as I start to like live more in my D era, in my dominance era, is that I think back on all of the kind of really hard times I
hmm
had with that personality type, and it scares me sometimes because it's like some of it was traumatic,
hmm
like some of the stuff from growing up and just living with people and engaging with people, like some of it was traumatizing and things that I don't want to repeat ever and I don't want to make anybody else feel like. But when I get in those, when Eventual Quita comes out, it's just so natural. And immediately I'm just like, it's like after I come back to my I-ness, I'm like, oh Lord, I hope I didn't like hurt anybody or traumatize anybody. And you have to unlearn that there's trauma associated with what you've experienced.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think what's your so one of the things that I think I'm constantly unlearning, and I appreciate what you said about the onion. I am learning more about myself. And not just learning more but getting comfortable, right? Like I said in the beginning, when I saw that D, it triggered me because it brought me back to a space I always said I never wanted to be.
Mm.
But I am. That's just who I am. Like, and it doesn't have to be a bad thing. Now there's an upside, there's an underside and an upside to any personality. We talked about that before, and it's true. Like you know, I can be very controlling, like as Quita said, like, do this, say this, be this, don't veer from that. This is my plan, and I want to move in that like that,
You
right?
ain't finna control
That and
me.
that I've gotten caught in that trap, and I've had to learn how to trust and let go and let people be who they are. Um, and also there's an upside to it. It's like I know how to get things done, and it's like there's like the combination of a D and a C, if that is who you are, you know what it's going to take to move something, like. And even
Mm-hmm.
though you may not know, this is key, and this is where I think the beauty of the difference of two people like me and Quita, um, is I know how to move things. Quita knows how to move people. And that's true.
Mm.
I'm not
Mm-hmm.
great at moving people. I'm learning, and I have learned from people like Jaquita and their personality types. Um, but I naturally am very good at moving a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes you have to know the difference. You have to know what's needed in the moment. Do you need to move people, or do you need to move a product? Do you need to move a thing, right?
That's
Um,
good.
and so one of the things that I've had to unlearn, is, we say this, but it again, it brings up the tension. The reality is, if you want something different, you got to do something different. And sometimes you are not the person to do the different. You have to accept something different. And that might mean you have
Mm.
to accept a different way of doing something, that somebody else is going to do. And
Mm-hmm.
I know that when I saw this, I immediately realized some gaps in my own, in my own behavior styles that didn't allow people to do what's needed, for the thing that I want to see better. Like, I'm trying to fill in gaps that other people need to fill, not me. But in
Mm.
order for that to happen, I got to let go of how I would do it. right? So like if
Mm-hmm.
I need my team, if I want my team to grow, which I do, but my team to grow, if I want them to develop, it's not just about giving them more responsibility. That's my natural, like, I'm just going to give you more stuff to do.
Mm-hmm.
Versus Aquita, how would you, what are some things, first of all, let me ask you this, just as a different way of thinking. Would that be part of your plan? And if maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but what else would you add to that from your
When you
standpoint?
say would what be part of
Like
my
growth and
plan?
development of a team. Like my
Mm.
first thing is I'm gonna give you more responsibility. I'm gonna watch how you do it, and we're gonna talk about it.
Um, I think I spent a lot of time getting to learn who my team members were individually, and what their ultimate goal was. And I crafted a kind of professional development plan that was specific to who they were. And I'm just constantly aware of their strengths and weaknesses. And I have a goal in mind for them. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like watching over the pot, like, okay, yep, I see where he's growing. Let me add a little bit more of this. And I scaled it, right? So it wasn't, I want you to get from A to Z by tomorrow. It was, I want you to get from A to C. Then I want you to get from C to F. Like I want you to make incremental leaps um toward like a fulfillment. And it allowed me to figure out, I'm always aware of when to be honest and when is the best time to drop truth. I had been I had my team for almost 3 years, about 2 3 years by the time I left. And it wasn't until like my last 2 weeks in the job where I was like,
Mm-hmm.
here's your next point of growth.
Mm-hmm.
Now I had always known that, but I dropped it at the right time because sometimes when we're looking at people and we're like, you just need to be made better. And I've been in those circumstances by these, where I got a story to tell, my sister. I got a story to tell. But I've been at that point where it's just, why can't you just do all of these things and become this person?
Right.
One, I'm not that person.
Yep.
And it took me a while to realize that.
Yep.
It took me a while to realize that the version of me that people were making up in their head was not me.
Yeah.
It was not who I am. It was not my gift set. It was not my personality. It was not my strengths. It just wasn't me. And who they wanted me to be was really a different version of
Of them.
themselves.
That's right.
And you cannot mold somebody to be you. And I think that people who are more task oriented tend to do that
For sure. We do that.
because they are like, they want it. And the biggest thing is that they didn't care about who I was or who I would become. They cared about what I would do and what it looked like. I want you to do, act, and behave in a way that symbolizes that you represent the way that I behave and act and
Yep.
think and everything. You get what I'm saying? And so,
Absolutely.
and it was stressful because I felt like I didn't have an advocate that was saying, hey, no, actually you bring value. Like, not only did I not have someone saying, no, you're great, like I really love who you are, and
Mm-hmm.
have somebody who said, you actually bring a lot of value to a space. You actually add a lot of value. It was affirming for me when I started realizing that there was productivity and purpose and impact in who I was,
Mm.
and not in the me becoming someone. One of the most, and it wasn't intentional, but it really did a number on me when I started my last position. Somebody told me, you're going to have to become Jaquita 2.0 to be successful in that position.
Mm.
Like, who you were in your last position ain't going to cut it.
Yeah.
And I stressed myself out trying to figure out,
Mm.
who is this Jaquita 2.0?
2.0.
How do I become her? What are the things, like, I have to be a different person.
Yeah.
And that is what that stalled me,
Mm.
because I felt defeated because I wasn't her. Like, I wasn't this new version of myself, because I was thinking, in order to be successful, you're going to have to be more like the person who said that to you,
Right,
or
right,
more
right.
like other people you've seen in leadership positions. The thing that helped me to be successful in that role, that I think has taught me so much, was that I just simply rested in being myself.
Yeah.
And it started coming naturally when I stopped trying to be who I thought I should be and
Mm.
allowed myself to be like, you know what, Jaquita, you are an
Yeah.
I am inspirational. I am motivational. I am energetic. I'm an S. Let's sit down. I want to think through who you are, what your strengths and weaknesses are. I want to make you better. I want to make us better. I want to build team culture. I want to build community. I want to build environments. I want to build buy-in. And the more I settled in who I was, the more freedom it gave me to even begin to delve into the D. I ain't never been a C, but the more freedom it gave me to, really be like, okay, I can be dominant now because
Yeah.
it's coming from an authentic place and
Mm-hmm.
not a place that somebody told me I have to be this, right?
Yeah.
I can be the person in charge. I can lead initiatives. I can think more about the task because I'm not trying so hard to squash down who I am. I'm allowing myself to just be. And I think that that was one of the things that I really had to unlearn that made the biggest difference in my life.
And that's good. And even now, because I can definitely, and I probably have made a statement that was like, becoming a 2.0 version of yourself. I don't know. I've never used those words, I don't think, but I probably have made statements to other people that alluded to that. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, why would I say it that way? And why, if I heard that, I would be weird. I would probably be motivated to find out who that was, because in my mind, I interpret that as a task to be done. Right? I
Mm,
need to do this. I am a doer. I want to do this. I want to get this done. And it would have almost been a challenge, right?
mm-hmm.
Versus for you, obviously that's not how you interpreted it. And
I interpret it as you're not good
you're not
enough.
enough, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I interpret it as I can get more. I can get I want more. Like it's but I say that to say, like, you have to take into account um how how your behavior styles and how you move impacts other people, like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just taken into account. And I think, again, with all this stuff, again, like I said this in the beginning, um this particular assessment is highly communal. It it is very much about not just you, but how your behaviors impact and affect other people,
Mm-hmm.
and how theirs affect you, and how you're able to move amongst a context together well. Like, if you can make this happen, then you probably you've landed in a really good place. It is not easy to do, because the temperaments are very different. The way you move is different. How you what you connect to is very different. All these things, right? So I'm sitting here and I'm just like, man, that's so interesting. We would have taken that two totally different ways. It would have probably motivated me, um, and I probably would have thrived off of a statement like that. Like, when people give me what I see as a goal, like, I'm trying to reach it. So that would have been a goal. How do I become better? And you didn't take it that way, so it helps me in this moment to say, am I speaking my own language to somebody else, expecting them to get it?
That's good.
Or am I learning? Do I know them well enough? Or am I learning them well enough to speak in their own language? For me, I didn't, and I don't think I realized this until I took the test. I actually work really well with an influencer. I think that, I do. I work really well with an influencer, because I realize that is a deficit in me. Like, I know that that's not who I am. And
Mm.
so, but one of the things that I did not realize, that I kind of thought I was, and this is something I think is really important to unlearn, is don't like the thing. If you don't see if you don't see a gap in you in something, it's gonna be hard for you to accept that in something else, in someone else. So I see a gap of influence in me. I didn't see a gap of steadiness. I actually thought I was pretty steady. Um, in the way that I move. I actually am not that steady,
Mm,
right?
no, you're like a little bit more explosive.
I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm and I'm not, I'm like I said, I kind of take it as a customer. I'm a risk taker. And I didn't realize that before I took this test, but because I thought I was something, the way it shows up, the real way it should show up, bothered me. And so that steadiness
Mm.
behavior drives me crazy, right? Because number one, you're not doing it the way I would do it, and I'm steady, and you're, steady. We can. The
Mm.
biggest thing is like from in that regard is the pace of movement. The steady behavior style is not fast. They don't move quickly, and the D behavior style does. It's a more of a fast paced deal.
Whew, child. When I tell you, I just feel everything coming up to the surface.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Release
Mm.
it. Release it. Release it. Um,
Right
but
now, in the name of
it's
Jesus.
lift your hands. Okay. So I think that like unlearning that has been really helpful for me. Unlearning that what
Mm.
I didn't perceive as a gap bothered me in other people, because I honestly saw myself as filling the gap. When I realized
Mm.
that I don't fill that gap, that's actually not who I am, and I have to allow other people
Ooh,
to be that in my life. Right? I
yeah.
gotta allow people who are steady to slow me down.
Mm.
If y'all knew me, you would know how hard that is. My husband now has not taken this, so I'm saying this. I'm saying this a little prematurely. However, I am pretty sure he's an S. I am pretty sure about that. Um,
That makes sense.
I have a team member who I love and adore, who is an S. Like it is not a if we're moving, if I'm at 100, they're at 50. And it's like, bro, you got to keep up. Like you got to keep up. Like come on, let's go. But then there are moments where I have to accept that they're right. Right? I had a team member who's not with us anymore, but she was for a long time. And she was exactly who I needed her, but her pace drove me crazy. Like, we're moving. We got to get this done. We have this much time to do it. We need to move, 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 move. And she was an S, and she was like, "We need to pay attention to this." And she was also conscientious. She was that detailed kind of mindset, and it slowed us down. But it was the absolute best thing. And she warned me. She
Mm-hmm.
said, "Hey," before she left, she warned me. She said, "I don't. I think we need to start taking less things, and we need to pay more attention to the everyday programming and not take as many performances." And I thought I listened to her, but I didn't fully until after like it took me like a year to really hear that. Um and she was absolutely right. But again, it rubbed me the wrong way because I thought I was already that.
When I tell you, this is almost like, y'all, like I am literally like a tear could actually form right now, and not because of like being with Abigail's relationship, but I'm thinking through one as an I and an S, the amount of times I was shamed for the pace that I work, for
Mm,
the ways that I think, for the ways that I want to engage and involve people. I almost was shamed out of being myself,
mm,
and it was a difficult road.
mm,
It was a difficult road. I have so many young girls come up to me and like, teach me how to be confident. Like, you're so confident. I want to be confident like you.
mm.
And I'm like, this was hard
Wow.
fought, baby.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like I had, and not just, you know, being confident about the way that I look, or being confident about the way that I talk, or all of those physical things, but just being confident about who I am was difficult.
Yeah.
And it took time. And it honestly took me having to create some space between me and those people who were demanding that
Mm,
I be a certain way. I had to take that space for myself until I felt strong enough
yeah.
in who I was to not feel the need to have to be anything or anyone other than who I was.
Yeah.
But as you were talking, it reminded me my last work environment. Like I was saying so many things But because I'm not task oriented
Mm.
and I'm people oriented and I'm intuitive and I'm sitting here and I'm telling you exactly like what she said to you is almost verbatim some of the things that I said before I left. And it
Mm.
was, oh, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But
Yeah,
I'm telling you that if you don't learn to value people,
that's right.
if people don't feel trusted, and that was, I was told, I was literally told that I was not trustworthy, that
Huh.
nobody could trust what was
Mm.
inside of me
Mm.
because it wasn't showing up in the way that it showed up in them. That
Yeah.
that people couldn't know me. And I didn't realize until like maybe this last year that I have but all of the good treasure I have found in myself, I have tried to hide it for fear that somebody would try to come and take it again.
Mm.
Like it took
Mm.
me so long to value what I had that it was really hard. It's not that I'm necessarily afraid of preaching or speaking or getting in front of people. I am afraid that somebody will speak ill of what I fought so hard to treasure.
That's good.
And
Wow.
and that's why criticism sometimes comes off so hard, because it's like, I've taken a lot of criticism in my life. Hold up.
Yep.
Because criticism should make what's inside of me better and not tell me that what I have is not good enough.
Mm.
You get what I'm saying? So like I look at, it takes me a minute to differentiate whether or not criticism is something that is constructive or something that's like literally trying to build me up, or if it is something that is trying to like convince me that I don't have good things.
Yeah.
And so like it takes me a minute to evaluate it, because I'm like, hold up, wait a minute, because I've gone through seasons of my life where people made me feel like all the things that people love about me now, those things were not even present because I didn't have access to it
Mm.
because I felt so defeated. And I think that, it is when we in a workplace, when we trust each other, like how you said, like you need it. There are things you need an eye to do. Like it is not, I need to become all the things and do all the things. But when we trust each other, we empower the people we work with to be their own version, their own superheroes.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? Like we empower Iron Man to, hey man, go get the suit. Ain't nobody else got no
Right.
suit like yours.
Right.
Go get the suit. You know what I'm saying? Hulk,
Yep.
bulk up. It's
Hulk
time.
up.
Get
Let's go.
Hulk up. Get mad, do whatever you gotta do, but we
Right.
need the Hulk.
Right.
Like when in Infinity Wars, when he wasn't like showing up, he couldn't get access to it. It was all right, bring out the big guy.
Right.
Where's the big guy?
Where's the big
Nobody else
guy?
can be the big guy but you.
Yeah.
When we treat people like that,
Yeah.
like, man, I need you to show up because can't nobody else do it like you. And I don't need another me. Like, I don't need another version of me. But when we make it like, yo, you're needed, and we make people feel valued, the ways people would show up
Oh
for your
man.
project,
Oh
for
man.
your initiatives, for your missions, for your purposes, for your new ideas, for the thriving of the organization, the way people show up
Yep.
when you recognize what's in them is not only special, but it's needed and it's valued, man, we would change the game.
Yeah. You know, I want to just, if I could say something to anybody out there who is a leader. A lot of leaders in this culture, first of all, in the work culture in particular, we're very task oriented. We are, I think, there's been a lot of books, probably in the last 10 years or so, talking about boundaries and, you know, vulnerability and all these things. A very new concept in the workplace, right? We are still very much a task oriented um, culture when it comes to working.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of leaders, people that have leadership positions and have decision making authority, have very like you promote people who are task oriented because that's the type of culture that a lot of us are in. If I and I am one of those people, I am a task oriented individual. I'm a task oriented leader in both my natural and adaptive state. I am about tasks. Um, so one thing that I would really encourage uh anyone who is like that to unlearn is that tasks are more important to develop than people. You have to
Mm.
unlearn that because that's not true. And you're gonna go against the culture, right? We're going against the grain in that because for most people, especially, we're in a capitalist society. So we want to stack the coins, we want to stack the resources. You want to this is what we're trained to do. Most people in leadership positions are trained to do that. I want to challenge you to unlearn that. And also I want to challenge you to slow your pace down. If there's two things that I've learned as a leader in the last 4 years, it is I've got to focus my energy on developing people more than the task. And in order to do that, I have to slow down.
Mm.
And it is not a natural tendency. And it's not a natural tendency for a lot of people who are in leadership decision making positions because you feel the need to move quickly because you got to get this done and that done. But if your team is not running at the pace you are, then those things that you're the way you want to grow can't happen because you can't do it by yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
so understand that when you do slow down, you slow down for the reason of building a team. You actually are putting yourself in a position to run faster and get more done. But you have to take that moment of slowing down and see value in that. If you have somebody on your team who you see is better, give them that responsibility. Be
Yeah.
honest about it. Don't feel like just because you're in charge, you got to figure that out. If you have somebody like a Jaquita, even if they're not a decision maker, I'm serious. Like I've had to learn how to do that. Even if they're not a decision maker, I've got somebody on my team right now. She's not technically a decision maker, but she understands the value of growth and development as a team. And she asked me the other day, she was like, when are we going to do our next team, our next retreat? I'm telling you right now, the retreat is the last thing on my mind. It
Mm-hmm.
really, I don't even go through the year thinking about it until somebody brings it up. So I've said, hey, if you can, and so even we were together this earlier this week. Uh, you know, what are some ideas you have? Well, and we talked about it. I said I need you to help me with that because it's not going to be something that's top of mind for me. She said, I got you. Give them that, right? Give them
Mm-hmm.
that responsibility. Let them help you. Don't feel like you're less of a leader for that. And those are just things I've had to unlearn about being in this role and having that kind of dominant personality. Like just because you have a dominant personality doesn't mean you're the best at everything. Like,
Yeah.
and that can kind of, it can be perceived that way. You also can run people over to where they don't think that they have the voice that you have. And sometimes you got to pull back so that people can realize, no, 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 I want you. It's not just that I need you to do this. I want you to do this. Like have like that affirmation is very important. But I just that's from my people who are like me. And if
Yeah.
you in leadership position, it is more than likely that's probably a little bit how you are.
Well, and I feel like I want to give like a little message to the people who are like me, because I think that one of the I think the thing that ultimately held me back for such a long time was that I was stuck in this victim villain
Mm,
motif where I was so felt so constricted and refined and kind of pushed down by like really the D and the C, the D and the C, and so I took on this victim personality and I made all of my conversations were about how I was a victim of not being understood, or I
mm,
was a victim of not being, valued or prioritized. And when you live in that space, because sometimes when you are a person that is constantly thinking about how to make people better, it is really hard for you to understand how to make yourself better. Like that
yeah,
is not
that's good.
something that you naturally
That's
do.
really good.
And so it's much easier to focus on the people that you feel like you can't help.
Mm,
And I think for me, that became such a huge thing because I could not get these dominant personalities around me. And there were many. I could not get them to listen to me. And I could not get
mm,
them to see how, like, you are missing like a whole spectrum of understanding people and community. engagement, like you are missing it. But because I felt like I was constantly under attack and I saw them, I didn't see them as villains, but if I was the victim, they was going to be the villain.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If and so I saw myself as being beat down, run down, all of these things. It was difficult until I gave myself the empowerment of, Jaquita, you are not a victim. Like, you have the ability, like, forget all of that. Like, these people do not have as much control and input into who you are as you are giving them.
Yeah.
You are giving it away. And sometimes people with that dominant personality, it's easy to just give in. It's easy to be like, oh, okay, cool. You don't want to do a retreat? We don't need no retreat.
Yep.
It's easy, you know what I'm saying? If you were in a different phase of your life, you could have said, we're too busy for a retreat.
Right.
We'll look at next year. You
Right.
know, and people with my personality types, it is difficult to stand up to that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to, when you see yourself as, I'm not a victim,
Mm-hmm.
I am a person who brings value and adds to this community and to the project and to the productivity and to the task. Like, what I'm doing adds value to the task. When you see yourself like that, you will be able to stand in your full authority and say, hey, no, it's necessary that we do this. Let me tell you why. When you don't see them as the villain or as the bad guy, but as the, hey, no, we really need to work together. Let me step up. And sometimes with a person who has a dominant personality, you do have to learn how to step up,
Yeah.
because they're not going to stop being dominant.
That's right.
It's
They're not.
if you just giving everything away and giving in and never adding your input and never letting your voice be heard and never saying, what about the people, what about this, what about that, that you are preventing that person from growing.
That's right. And you're
By
burning them out.
being quiet
Yep.
and by just giving in, you prevent that person from the necessary refinement that they need. And so drop that villain victim mentality, and step into everything that you're supposed to, and be your full authentic self, and let your light shine.
Come on, let your light shine. That's good.
This little light
I
of
knew it was coming.
mine,
I knew it was coming.
I'm gonna let it shine.
I knew it was coming. Very good. This has been really good. I this is actually, again, this has helped me, man. Like, I'm sitting here, okay, all right, I do need to work on some. I still got things to work on,
Me
um,
too.
and knowing that it is okay. Like, we still gotta. I love what you said. All right, Quita. You have to skedaddle, so we are going to be finished.
Hey, but before I go, all right, y'all listen to it. You were uplifted. You were made better. All right, don't keep it to yourself.
Don't keep it to
All right,
yourself.
go ahead. We need y'all to like the post. All
Yes.
right, give us the little heart. Okay, what the young folk be doing? They be throwing up
I
gang
don't know
signs
what.
and
Don't.
stuff. Okay, just a simple heart. You see
Right.
how that's hard? That's all you need, right? Like, share, subscribe,
Boom, boom, boom.
comment. We want to hear from you guys. And if you see us in the street, say what's up.
Say what's up.
I love talking to y'all for real.
Yep. Like, y'all already do that. All right, y'all. So catch us next week for another unlearning personality session with RA and Jaquita. But until then, we will keep unlearning together so that we
Mm,
together
my
can
Lord.
experience more freedom. We'll see y'all
Yes,
later.
Lord.
Peace.